Hey there viewers, and welcome back to TRW. Today I'm going to show you how to replace strut. Please, if you enjoy this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and let's get started. This strut that is gone, we're going to be taking that coil off. I'll show you guys how to do that safely without getting hurt, and we'll also be replacing those linkage back there for the stabilizer link. If you like this kind of content, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't ever miss out whenever we post. Since we're replacing this strut, we're going to remove the strut bolts mounting to the knuckle, so we'll take those two off. Also, before we get too deep into this, right here, your hose has this little clip onto the strut. All we're going to do is we're just going to knock that clip out. So it's just a little spring clip like that. It has a little arch on it, and that just holds your brake hose in. So now we got that out of the way. We already took all the ABS wires off the strut as well. We just need to remove the nut off the sway bar link, get that out of the way, and then we'll take the bolts out of the top. The strut tower bolts, we're going to remove those. Nice. Came out perfectly. I like to try to stay as organized as possible, so I put the nut back on the bolt so that I know it goes here, and then I'll put it in a spot so that everything goes back in place correctly. Okay, put this one back on. And then when we put this all back together, we're going to use blue Loctite, and I'll mention that as we're putting it together. The strut sway bar link is a 19 mil, and we're going to see if we can zip that off with no problems. All right, it's an 18. My fault. It's an 18 mil. All right, so this is an 18 mil. We're going to try to zip it off real quick. Okay, we got that one out. Just move it out of the way for now. So as I was saying earlier, on this sway bar link, right here where you put a wrench to hold it so you can just screw it down off and on. I like this type better than the one that has a hole here where you put an Allen key in. This is a way better design. I like that a lot better. Now we're going to come up to the top to where the strut assembly is up here. Let's remove these 3 bolts and get the strut out. Just going to remove it. Enough so we can get it loose, take it out by hand. And we're going to put it right here on top of the cowling so we know where it's at. We're going to use the impact on these 2. Put those ones right here on top of the cowling as well. Come back down to the bottom so we can remove the strut. So we just removed the top 3 bolts on top. We're going to get this. We're going to hang it right here off this brake. And now we're going to just remove this strut from out of here. We already have it released from our knuckle here. Okay, so now we're going to remove our strut. We're going to take it off this knuckle. We're just going to press down, lift up at the same time, and it comes right out. And now what we got to do is we got to get a spring compressor, compress this spring, take this top nut off, and then pull the strut out and then put the new strut in. I'll show you guys all that here in just 1 second. Okay, so we have the strut out now, and now we're going to remove this nut up here. You do not remove this nut unless you have tension, these springs compressed. If you remove this nut without the springs compressed, I seen someone do it once. It wasn't a pretty sight. He was lucky that he did it just on the ground and just zipped it off. It just shot across the room. But if you remove it like in this position right here, and you remove that nut without having the spring compressed, you may not be removing any more nuts after that, because if this hits you, you may not wake up. So, disclaimer, if you don't have the proper tools to do this strut, I recommend just taking it into a shop and have them remove the strut for you and put it back on for you. They can do that. You could also rent the tools at your local auto parts store. This is what the tool looks like. It's just a spring compressor. So you put the springs in these little slots here, and then you compress the spring down. I'm going to show you all that right now. Then you'll be able to remove this nut. All right, so let's get our spring compressor tool. Make sure your pins are in place. You don't want this coming out and making your day a little less unpleasant. Put the other one in across from this one. Tighten this up a little. This side on there, tighten it up some. Okay, so we have our strut clamps in and that compress the strut. Now we're going to release the main nut on top. So on your struts, there is a right and left side. So make sure you get the right strut. This one is the passenger side. So this is what it looks like with all the springs and everything on it. And this is what it looks like when you get it from the store. So you can get these loaded that has all of this on it, and you just basically plug and play. You just put it back up there, the 3 bolts back in, and you'll be done. This one is a lot more cheaper usually. I have some cases where this was more expensive to buy it like this than to get it like this. But in this case, this one was a lot cheaper going this route. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get a wrench, and we're going to turn this little hex right here counterclockwise until the strut pops out. Okay, so we're just going to turn this a little bit counterclockwise, and then the strut will start popping out by itself. And you're just going to let it come all the way out. And then we're just going to lift this up and place it on this one right here. All right, just lift this one up. And just transfer everything over from your old strut to your new strut. Okay, so we're done with this one now. We're going to move it out of the way so you can see me work on the new one. Now we're going to put the coil back on. Put the coil back on, put your mount back on, your mount and bearings back on, and then tighten the bolt back up. Okay, so now that you have it all compressed and the spring back on, the new shock in, you're going to see that once you put the spring back on and your bearings, this is your bearings for the upper, and this is the mounting plate. Once the mounting plate goes on, you're just going to get your nut, put your nut back in for the strut, lube it up a little, and then you're just going to zip it down until it's fully tight. And just make sure you torque it down to specs. Alright, after you have it torqued down to specs, you're just going to loosen up your clamps, and then you're going to install it right back in. So just loosen your clamps up evenly. Take your clamp off, and that's what your strut will look like after you put the new one in. So that's the brand new strut complete. Remember to check these bearings up here on the upper. If they're bad, to replace them at the exact same time you're doing all this. Or you could just buy the complete assembly and just plug and play. But that's how it should look. Everything should line it right back up to where it was. You can see everything was lined right back up. And now all we're going to do is we're just going to try to reinstall it. Okay, you just grab your strut, lift her on up, bring her into her position, all the way to the top. And then I'm going to take you up top so you can see us lift it up and put the strut top mounting bolts in. Okay, so here's the top of our strut tower. We're going to get our bolts ready to put in place. We're going to reach underneath the car. We're going to lift it up. And then we're going to put our bolts in place. 1, 2, and there's 3. So we put 1 bolt, 2 bolt, 3 bolts in for our strut. And they were 13 mils. Tighten them back down. And you want to make sure you put them as close as you can, because this is what's going to adjust your cast for alignment. Put it as close as you can to where it was before. And that's what it should look like once you have them all in, lined back up. Now we're going to come back down to the bottom down here, and we're going to install the knuckle into the strut. Here's the knuckle right here. And we're going to install that straight into the strut right here. Hub, and now all we're going to do is push down on this to line it up with the strut. And we're going to put our bolts back in. Both sides. We're just going to put a dab of blue Loctite on these. Put our nuts back on. So now we have our nuts back on. We're going to zip these on and then torque them down to specs. These are 21s. Or you can use a German specs, also known as good and tight. Good and tight. Why don't Germans use torque specs? Because everything's good and tight. Okay, put our brake line back in. Our clip just slides right in to the little slots there. Just like so. You still recording? What are you doing? My phone did. And there you have it, folks. Brand new brake, brand new rotors, brand new hub, brand new strut, brand new sway bar links, and brand new ABS sensors. That's how you complete a whole entire front end, minus the tie rods, on a 2009 Nissan Altima. Let's put this tire back on, torque it down to specs, and take it for a test drive. Please look for us on Facebook, Instagram, at This Is Our Way TRW if you like this kind of content. And until next time, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.